The film begins by showing General Meng Tian, a distinguished military leader who played a crucial role in the Qing dynasty's rise to power. Under his command, the Qing dynasty was able to conquer and unify all of China, thereby establishing Emperor Qin Shi Huang as the first emperor of China. To aid him in his conquests, General Tian recruited 7 disciples, each with their own unique strengths and personalities. These disciples, Lianzi, Guangxian Su, Bai Ling, Ti Chui, Ji Lian, Bai Ru, and Tian Chonglu, served as General Tian's trusted companions and provided him with invaluable support on the battlefield. Of all the disciples, Chonglu was the most powerful, and his mere presence was enough to strike fear into the hearts of the enemy. With General Tian and his disciples by his side, no enemy dared to challenge their might, and even the sound of their footsteps was enough to cause the enemy to flee in terror. Emperor Qin Shi Huang recognized the importance of not only having a strong army but also having weapons that could inspire fear in the hearts of their enemies. To achieve this, he commissioned 2 blades to be crafted by the most skilled blacksmiths of his time. These blades were not just ordinary weapons, they were imbued with magical powers that added to their already impressive craftsmanship. The first sword was called a Fang Ding Qing, and it was kept within the palace of a Fang. The second sword, Guan Tai Ding Qing, was entrusted to General Tian, who wielded it with great skill on the battlefield. As news of the mystical blades spread across China, people began to believe that anyone who possessed both swords could conquer the world. After years of serving as General Tian's disciples, the 7 warriors retired to become imperial soldiers during a time of peace in the Qing dynasty. However, their peace was short-lived as the death of Emperor Qin Shi Huang marked the beginning of the Qing dynasty's decline. The downfall of the dynasty was orchestrated by none other than Emperor Qing's advisor, Zhao Gao. Driven by a thirst for power and revenge, Zhao Gao plotted to destroy the dynasty that had castrated him and his brothers. With his thirst for power and revenge, Zhao Gao took over the Qing emperor's palace after successfully overthrowing him. He killed the crown prince and several ministers who opposed him and was willing to do anything to acquire the 2 legendary swords belonging to the Qing emperor. In his quest for the swords, Zhao Gao appointed Tian Chonglu, one of General Tian's 7 disciples, as a military commander to help him find the Guan Tai Ding Qing sword. Little did Zhao Gao know that Chong was fiercely loyal to the Qing dynasty and would stop at nothing to protect the sword from falling into the wrong hands. When Zhao Gao's army stormed General Tian's house, they ruthlessly killed all members of the family, leaving only a young girl named Meng Tse behind. In the chaos, Meng Tse was rescued by a servant who entrusted her with the Guan Tai Ding Qing sword and instructed her to flee to the safety of the Qing emperor's tomb. While Meng Tse ran for her life, she was relentlessly pursued by Zhao Gao's army. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, a bearded man with incredible fighting skills suddenly appeared to save her. To Meng Tse's surprise, the man turned out to be Ji Lian, one of General Tian's 7 disciples. Ji Lian was determined to protect Meng Tse and the Guan Tai Ding Qing sword, not only because she was his master's daughter but also because he knew the sword's power could bring about great destruction in the wrong hands. Zhao Gao sat on his throne, his eyes burning with rage and disappointment. He had failed to capture the sword he had been seeking, and worse yet, the daughter of General Tian had managed to slip through his grasp. Chonglu, who had joined forces with Zhao Gao, was overcome with guilt for his actions. He knew that what he had participated in was a massacre and he couldn't help but feel remorseful toward General Tian. Chen, one of Zhao Gao's servants, also felt uneasy about what had happened. The following day, Ji Lian and Meng Tse made their way to the city's exit, but they were confronted by soldiers who were searching for Meng Tse, who was considered a rebel. Ji Lian knew they had to escape quickly and was able to steal a horse to make their escape. However, as they rode away, Chonglu appeared on the wall above them and shot an arrow at Meng Tse's back. In the evening, Ji Lian arrived at an inn owned by Lianzi, one of General Tian's disciples, to seek help for the severely injured Meng Tse. Lianzi and Ji Lian worked together to treat Meng Tse's injuries, and Ji Lian entrusted her to Lianzi's care. She instructed Lianzi to take Meng Tse to a secret valley where the other disciples of General Tian were located. The next day, Lianzi prepared to leave the inn to deliver Meng Tse and the Guan Tai Ding Qing sword to the other disciples. However, their plans were interrupted by an unexpected guest, Chen, and his army. Chen seemed suspicious and was searching for the sword and Meng Tse, who he believed was a rebel. When Han Ju exited the inn carrying a sword, he was immediately confronted by Chen and his army. Chen reprimanded him for carrying a weapon, as it was strictly prohibited for civilians to possess swords. Han Ju appeared confused and unsure of how to respond, but Lianzi soon arrived on the scene with a calm and collected demeanor. Lianzi took charge of the situation, explaining to Chen that the swords in their possession were collateral from guests who couldn't pay for their room. She then handed over all the swords, including the one carried by Han Ju, to Chen's army. Fortunately, Chen believed her explanation and allowed Lianzi and her guests to continue staying at the inn. Lianzi knew that they needed to retrieve the Guan Tai sword, which had been confiscated along with the other swords. It was crucial that they obtain the sword in order to continue on their mission to reach the hidden valley where General Tian's disciples were hiding. However, Chen suspected that something was amiss. He ordered his army to search Lianzi's inn. However, Lianzi managed to persuade Chen that they were only relics of the guests who couldn't afford to pay for their rooms. Chen accepted this explanation and had dinner with Lianzi. Meanwhile, Han Ju tried to secretly retrieve the Guangtai sword from Chen's room but was caught by Chen's army, who had the same idea. Chen noticed the footprints in his room and became suspicious. His army had previously found arrows in Meng Tse's back, which further confirmed Chen's suspicions that General Tian's daughter and the sword were in Lianzi's inn. Chen immediately summoned reinforcements and sent a message through a dove, intending to storm the inn and retrieve the sword. The following day, Chen was enjoying a leisurely snack with a cup of tea when his reinforcements arrived and immediately destroyed Lianzi's inn. Fortunately, Han Ju had already retrieved the Guangtai sword and quickly urged Lianzi and Meng Tse to flee with him into the bamboo forest. While they made their way through the forest, an arrow suddenly whizzed past them, narrowly missing their group. Han Ju quickly ordered Lianzi and Meng Tse to continue running while he stayed behind to hold off their pursuers. Despite closing his eyes, Han Ju displayed remarkable reflexes, deftly avoiding incoming arrows and even managing to take down one of Chen's soldiers with a well-aimed shot from his own bow. Moments later, Han Ju, Lianzi, and Meng Tse finally arrived at their destination valley, where they were greeted by a man named San who invited them to the house of Guang Xiansu and his wife Bai Ling. It turned out that Guang Xiansu was one of General Tian's 7 soldiers, nicknamed the Wisest, and Bai Ling was also one of General Tian's 7 disciples. What's more surprising was that they were Han Ju's parents. Upon seeing Meng Tse's condition, Xiansu immediately instructed Han Ju to take him to Bai Ru, who was another of General Tian's 7 disciples and a skilled doctor. Han Ju hurriedly brought Meng Tse to Bai Ru for treatment. On the other hand, Chen failed to capture Meng Tse and retrieve the Guangtai sword. He apologized to Zhao Gao and asked him to tell Chong Lu to search for the sword. Chen believed that Chong Lu, who was once Zhao Gao's friend, would better understand his enemies. Chong Lu accepted the task and set out to search for Meng Tse in the secret valley. However, Zhao Gao was worried that Chong Lu might betray him, so he instructed Chen to summon a mysterious assassin to follow Chong Lu. Meanwhile, in the Valley of Secrets, some of General Tian's disciples were arguing. Some were unwilling to help Meng Tse deliver the sword to Emperor Qing's tomb, as they believed it was no longer their responsibility after retiring from their role as General Tian's 7 warriors 10 years prior. After the meeting with Xiansu, Meng Tse decided to go alone to deliver the Guangtai sword to Emperor Qing's tomb. However, Xiansu secretly instructed Han Ju to accompany her, as a sign of respect for General Tian, who were Meng Tse's father and Xiansu's own master. In the meantime, Chong Lu had left to search for Meng Tse in the secret valley. Zhao Gao, who had previously failed to capture Meng Tse and obtain the sword, instructed a mysterious assassin to follow Chong Lu, fearing that he would betray him. During his journey, Chong Lu met with his old friend Jilian, who had previously saved Meng Tse's life. They drank together before facing off in a fight to the death. Despite their previous friendship, it was revealed that the two had been involved in a love triangle with Lianzi in the past. However, their fight was not due to romantic feelings, but because Chong Lu had chosen to side with Zhao Gao, who had killed their own teacher. As Meng Tse and Han Ju continued on their journey, they soon realized that they were being followed by 2 of Chen's soldiers. To protect Meng Tse, Han Ju urged her to go on ahead while he stayed behind to confront the soldiers. With his incredible sensory skills, Han Ju was able to outmaneuver and kill one of the soldiers with ease and shoot an arrow through the heart of the other. Meanwhile, Meng Tse encountered a new enemy who threw an axe at her, forcing her to dodge and fall into the river. Just as she was struggling to stay afloat, Han Ju arrived in the nick of time to rescue her. The tension between General Tian's disciples reached a boiling point when Zhao Gao's troops, led by Chong Lu, arrived the next day. The disciples engaged in a fierce battle with Chong Lu's army, but they were ultimately no match for them. In the chaos, Xiansu abandoned Bai Ling, who was in the process of giving birth. After the battle, Chong Lu and Chen went to Xiansu's residence, where they encountered Lianzi. Despite her love for Chong Lu, Lianzi fought him, her heart heavy with pain. Chong Lu, too, was hesitant to harm Lianzi and urged her to leave. But Lianzi refused, and Chong Lu was left with no choice but to kill her. Soon after, Chen entered the house and mercilessly stabbed Bai Ling, who had just given birth. Later, Jilian arrived at the scene and was shocked to see Lianzi dead. Fueled by anger and grief, Jilian went straight to the palace and slaughtered Zhao Gao's army in revenge. Jilian managed to reach Chong Lu and engaged him in a fierce battle. However, Zhao Gao's soldiers prepared to shoot Jilian. Jilian eventually emerged victorious over Chong Lu, but as he stood triumphantly, Zhao Gao ordered his soldiers to shoot arrows at him. In the meantime, Meng Tse and Han Ju finally arrived at Emperor Qing's tomb, but their surprise turned to shock when they discovered the dead tomb guards. It seemed that they had been killed by a mysterious masked man, who had already attacked Meng Tse with an axe. As they were investigating the scene, a sudden solar eclipse made the atmosphere turn dark. Han Ju, sensing danger, prepared to protect Meng Tse. However, the masked man suddenly appeared and attacked them. Han Ju fought with all her might, but the enemy was too strong and Han Ju was quickly exhausted. In a brave move, Meng Tse pushed the masked man, causing both of them to fall into a deep abyss, resulting in their deaths. Sometime later, Xiang Yu and Liu Bang, both soldiers, rebelled against the Qing dynasty. However, they had different goals and approaches. Xiang Yu was ruthless, committing massacres against all members of the Qing dynasty family. Liu Bang, on the other hand, was more forgiving and merciful. After a long and bloody battle, Liu Bang emerged victorious and conquered the Qing dynasty. He was able to capture Xingxi, the grandson of Qing Shi Huang who had previously killed Zhao Gao, the traitor. In the end, Xingxi surrendered to Liu Bang and handed over the imperial seal to him, making Liu Bang the new ruler of the land. The moral of the story is that if you want to build a long-lasting dynasty, make sure to have emperor's swords on your side. And if you can't find the first sword, don't worry, just make sure to get the second one from a guy named Han Ju.